had to build, you know, a whole Russian armored division. And to build everything that would be in a Russian armored division.
Churchill, steer it around.
There's a company out here that owns all these military machines.
My brother and I own a company called Values Motion Picture Rentals. And on the movie Red Dawn, we supplied all the Soviet vehicles.
How about you happy people in warm Newhall are thrilled with this?
I was told if John sees everything, he'll want everything. And that's my kind of guy. So he just fell in love with everything, and he was running in a Jeep, the Jeep, the truck, the truck, the truck. And that was John, and I kind of admired him for that, because he was looking for production value and what he could utilize.
John, he knew the serial numbers of every vehicle. He knew everything about them. Everything that a Soviet vehicle had, and what the accessories and the guns, and he just knew. He knew everything about them. And that's what come across in this movie.
John is a nut for authenticity, I'll give him that. Well, he knows what things should be, and he won't excel for anything less. He's superb that way.
We needed these Soviet tanks for sure, and you couldn't buy them anywhere in the world at that time. And so we had to create them and build them.
They said, well, we can build anything, because they built some German tanks. They said, we can build anything. I said, well, can you build a T-72? Oh, yeah, we can build a T-72. Can you build an M1A1? Oh, we can do that, too. You know, can you build a BTR-60, the ZSU, all of these different vehicles and stuff, and guns and stuff. They built them really well.
We had about 30 welders, and I remember we had 3 shifts, because we had 2 different locations building the tanks. There was about 50 people altogether, and it took about 3 months to build them all.
Most of the stuff is built off of the American M48 chassis, which the Russians really copied. So that worked pretty well, you know, that you could make it look like a Russian T-55 pretty easily, you know, or a T-72 or something like that, because it basically was a copy of an American frame.
The characteristics of the T-72 is the slope of the front, the 6 road wheels, and the low-profile turret that they had on them. So we had to make the turrets out of fiberglass with a reinforced metal roll cage inside there, and they're all on a turret race run by hydraulics to turn the turret and elevate the guns. They have a 125 millimeter cannon, smoothbore cannon is what they call it. So we simulated that with fiberglass and aluminum.
One thing that was always fascinating to us, why would they put 2 big 55-gallon drums of gas in the back of the tank? That's a real thing that they had on the Russian tanks.
2 big targets on the back.
Yeah. This tank probably was painted 8 to 10 times for different colors that we needed in the movie in Red Dawn over there. So it could be white summer snow, it could be the green, and then it could be the camouflage. So this tank probably doubled as about 4 tanks, among with the rest of them.
And then we had to, acquire, we had to make these things fire and that kind of stuff, and get machine guns to work on top of the tanks.
Well, as we were building the tanks and stuff, we built in, to the barrels of the guns and things where they could have black powder packs and fire coming out the barrels of them. And they had some tremendous explosions. It was just unbelievable because we were in New Mexico and out in the open. Nobody's around to bother you. They had some really great explosions. It's amazing.
But I can remember one incident where they came to my brother and I and said, now we want to blow up this tank and we want to do some damage to it, and what will it do? And so we went around and we looked. They wanted to destroy the turret. Well, we said, well, if we destroy it, we'll have to get another one. But let's keep making the movie. Let's make this movie. So whatever happens, we'll worry about it later. Let's keep going. And boy, that tank took a hit. And Ron and I says, oh man, we about lost that tank. But you know, there's nothing we couldn't fix or patch and make going and keep the movie going. So we worked with them, and it looked good.
I remember one time on Johnson's Mesa, it was 40 below zero. It was so cold that sometimes you couldn't get these things to even start, and you'd have to build a fire under them just about. So it was a challenging type thing to do, really. Look at your seat. Look at the steering wheel.
Look at everything else. The pedals are lost in the snow.
That's inside the tank.
Yeah.
We was all working in here in the shop and in the yard here, and the CIA drives in, these guys in these 3 cars, and they've been flying over here and got a report that we had these Soviet tanks, and they could see them from the air. They wanted to know what we was doing with them. And so after we explained to them we were making them for a movie, they thought, well, this would be okay. And then when we got done with the show, brought all the vehicles back here, actually the same people called us and they wanted to use those tanks because they were really, really so real. They wanted to use them for signatures for the government, for their spy planes and stuff.
Millie's did a really good job of making this movie believable. My Lord, the napalm, I mean, the explosives I couldn't believe it.
We learned that from Apocalypse Now, where you fill a plastic tube, like a plumbing tube, and you fill it with gasoline and Tide, and then you wrap the whole thing in det cord, and then you set it off in sections so that the whole thing will go up and kind of roll.
It was pretty impressive. It was like being in a war.
The helicopters were, the Russians had, reverse engineered and copied the Puma helicopter, the French Puma helicopter. And so we just got a couple of Pumas, or got more than we got 3 of them, I guess. And we put appendages on them and everything else. Got the FAA to give us a temporary, certification so that we could fly them around as long as it wasn't over, highly built up area, because they didn't know whether these things were going to fall out of the sky or not. But they looked just like Heinz, because they really were just like Heinz.
And the Russians had at that time a particular helicopter. It was called the Heinz. And it was really a devastating helicopter. We had nothing like it. We do now, but we didn't then. It really was a striking resemblance to the real thing, to the real Heinz. They're scary. I mean, that thing comes up and hovers there. I mean, you're suddenly glad you're not in a real war with Russia.
These things were like scary. They were the way they were shaped. And they come over the mountain, and they were just so real. And it was just totally amazing to see these things recreated, out of a different type of helicopter. And when you've seen all the vehicles and all that action together, I mean, it really made that movie just what it is. It's really just a great movie.
I think one of the biggest movies that Renaud and I always cherish in our heart, because it was like the making of a big war picture. And John and the whole crew and our tank crew, we put our whole effort into it. And I think it was one of our #1 pictures we did. I enjoyed it.
I always liked having the tanks next to my tent. I always liked getting on the tanks and riding off somewhere, standing in the turret of the tank, riding along through the snow. Makes you feel like Napoleon. It felt good to have accomplished something that was that difficult.